By now, you may have heard of the Christian evangelist John Allen Chau, who was killed when he traveled to North Sentinel Island in India and made contact with a hostile tribe while trying to spread the word of Jesus. This tribe, the Sentinelese, is an uncontacted tribe, which is to say that people have attempted, and sometimes successfully, made contact many times before, but nothing is stuck, and the tribe remains primitive, a hunter-gatherer society ripped right from the Stone Age who were believed not to have even discovered fire. The Sentinelese are openly hostile to all outsiders and have killed many people who happened upon the island, whether on purpose or by accident. Contact attempts are recorded as early as 1880, with varying results. Before we talk about John Allen Chau's recent demise, it would help to get a history of how prior contact with the tribe has gone. In the 1880 attempt, a British naval officer led a group of armed Europeans to the island and captured 6 of the fleeing tribesmen, an elderly man and woman and 4 children, before taking them back to the capital of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where the old people pretty much instantly died of disease. Lost tribes don't have the same genetic immunities as civilized folk, obviously, so being coughed on by a bloke in a uniform is akin to being shot in the chest with a musket. Much of tribal human rights groups' trepidation when it comes to trying to establish contact with lost tribes is that we'll expose them to all sorts of pathogens when we might as well have just dropped a nuke on their whole island. The British officer sent the kids back with gifts in the hopes of showing that the British were friendly, but a better gift would have been the 2 old people alive again. It's not surprising that a tribe wouldn't recognize the value of pigs and tools as a consolation prize for the death of 2 of their own. The Indian government set up a state welfare agency in the 1990s to look after the island's tribal groups, which included a few years of contact expeditions. Apparently, some of these actually didn't end in bloodshed, with the Sentinelese occasionally approaching the gift-bearing voyagers unarmed and accepting some of what they brought. But if the teams overstayed their welcome by hanging around longer than, say, 5 minutes, the tribe would get loud and violent and threaten them by shooting arrows without arrowheads. Those expeditions ended when a similar contact of the Jerwawa tribe in the south and middle sections of the island ended in several deaths, and also to avoid giving the tribes diseases that would prevent them from murdering almost everyone in sight. In 2006, 2 Indian fishermen attempted to illegally harvest crabs off the North Sentinel Islands coast, anchoring their boat and spending the night, but their makeshift anchor broke while they were sleeping, and they slowly floated within range of the islanders, who were none too pleased about being forced to subsequently attack and kill them in their sleep and destroy their boat. Nothing says imminent threat like snoring fishermen. I assume this tribe sleeps, so they know what it looks like. Some people would defend it as like, but the fishermen were there illegally, as if the tribe would recognize the distinction. God himself could have sent those dudes there and they still would have been killed. And so we come to the death of John Allen Chau, whose body might not even be recovered from the island for fear of disturbing the people who killed him. This story makes me sad. Not least of which because of all of the people in the comment sections of all these conflicting articles I'm reading saying he deserves to rot in hell. Fuck you, assholes! I'm also sad because the state of news organizations today is that you cannot trust a goddamn thing they say. The New York Times says Chau acted alone and was not affiliated with any organization, while the Associated Press has an interview with the leader of the All Nations organization she says trained him, discussed it with him, and sent him on the damn mission. Wikipedia says it's always been illegal to get within 3 miles of the island, but that same organization leader said they lifted those sanctions back in August. Other conflicting reports include whether or not he traveled at night to avoid detection by authorities, and even what gifts he brought. The search for the truth of an event is not easy and often takes parsing 5 or 6 articles and you still won't get it. But back to the people applauding Chau's death, which are a combination of people who hate religion, Christianity specifically, and progressives who view his visit as a biological attack on the tribe, whom they wish to protect at all costs like they're an endangered species, which I suppose they are, even though India has almost 1,000 scheduled tribes of indigenous people that are formally recognized. You can't defend the Sentinelese's existence without treating them like animals. I mean, they are animals. Humans are animals, generally, but primitive humans are more naturally animalistic. If you're glad Chau's dead, you're a dick. You have no moral superiority to stand on. The dude was trying to spread the gospel, which according to his own belief is the most noble thing you can possibly do, and he was willing to do it under threat of death, as he writes in his journals. He was there 3 days. A kid shot him with an arrow that hit his Bible, and he still came back the next day, trying to communicate and offering gifts. He wrote in his journal that he didn't want to die, but said if he abandoned his mission, he would leave that fate in the hands of whoever replaced him, and that wasn't the right thing to do. He was scared. rightfully so, but stayed. He gave a final letter to one of the fishermen who gave him passage to be delivered to a friend if he didn't make it, and sent them away. The next day they came back and saw his body being dragged with a rope around his neck. A 26-year-old American who loved hiking and mountain climbing, who taught soccer to kids in South Africa, and wrote in his final letter urging people to forgive the Sentinelese if they ended up killing him. Forgive me if seeing people cheer the notion of his family not even being able to bury their brother and son boils my fucking blood. People who claim he got what he deserved, people calling him an idiot, even a mass murderer for potentially exposing them to pathogens that could wipe out the tribe. I'll ask the question, what would we fucking lose? Sorry. It is hypocritical of me to denounce the celebration of one person's death while simultaneously vindictively philosophizing another, even if the motives driving the two entities' actions couldn't be more opposing. One was love, the other fear, and attributing fear to them as a motive is being generous. Chau writes in his journals about some of the interactions he had with them, and when they weren't menacing him, they were laughing in his face. Fear my ass. Maybe it's too far to say they killed him out of contempt, but I wouldn't shake my head at it. Disregard might work, though their laughter tells me it's equally likely they murdered John Allen Chau for fun. Which brings me to the next avenue of this discussion. Why do we need to actively work to preserve ancient tribes who want nothing to do with the modern world and are openly hostile to it? Why do they get a pass for cold-blooded murder? You might equate it to predators in the wild, like lions and tigers killing poachers and deserving no consequences for that, which I agree with, because the poachers were there to kill them, and even if a lion ate a wandering civilian, maybe you can't fault them for their predatory animalistic instincts when a civilian treads where he doesn't belong. But let's give the Sentinelese a little more intellectual credit than a lion, shall we? They know what real threats look like. They were set upon by armed Europeans in the 1800s and kidnapped. And no doubt that story has been passed down for generations by the tribe. They can differentiate between a British soldier with a musket and a 26-year-old unarmed American carrying a Bible and a fucking soccer ball. He spent 3 days with them. If they saw him as a threat, he'd have been dead before he reached the shore. I do not believe the Sentinelese have any high ground in this situation. Why do we consider it our duty to shelter them? We're like the Truman Show, watching this tribe exist and making sure no one interrupts the plot and clues them into the outside world. What favor is that of ours? The outside world is fucking amazing. This tribe doesn't even know fire. You can be against forced assimilation, especially considering it's a remote island, but they have needlessly killed people, our people. Our, meaning civilized people, Indians, British, and now an American. I mean, are we really supposed to just shrug our shoulders and worse, leave the guy's body there? Retrieve the body. No man left behind, even in savage territory, and savage is the right word to use. They aren't exactly polite. Figure it out. You abandon the body, you abandon humanity. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino. You can support the channel financially on Patreon at patreon.com/sunburnedalbino. And I'll see you guys next time.